Hello, everybody. Hello, Kim. How are you? Can I hear
great.
you?
I'm
like, can I hear you? How is your day today, lady?
It started early, so
it started early for me too.
Yes.
Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly live cast called the Momentum Tribe Mojo Show. And if you don't know what it is, let me put this up so you can actually see what we're talking about. Boom, here we go. So the Momentum Tribe Mojo Show is all about helping you create momentum, build constant momentum to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. And then it's also about taking action, create action plans, and take action that will get you results. And in today's episode, everybody, we're going to talk about how not to communicate with prospective LGBTQ clients. And if you're wondering, hey, how is this, why is this important, a conversation? Because you know why? You don't know. Well, I'm going to tell you that June is the Pride Month. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Before we get started, people, welcome to the show. And if you enjoy the idea of creating momentum and creating action plans and taking action steps to get results in your business, to share this out, people. If you're watching on Facebook or you're watching YouTube Live, wherever you're watching, invite your peeps, invite your tribe, come join us because this is a great conversation. So let's get started because we're going to bring on our guest in a few minutes, but I'm going to let Kim start with her quick intro.
Hey, everybody, this is Clarity Kim. If you're feeling overwhelmed with all your to-dos and you don't have enough day, come talk to Clarity Kim, where you just know you want to do something, but you're not sure what it is. Our message is simple. Success is your birthright. And to us, that means peace in your spirit, joy in your heart, profit in your pocket, all at the same time. So if you're not having that experience, come have a conversation with me. We will have a talk.
Boom. I love to do that. Boom. Because I love, I was part of giving her that name, Miss Clarity Kim.
I got the moniker from her.
Shamelessly admitting it.
Yeah, shameless plug. No, it's true. Yes, when I was in my midst of my confusion and non-clarity, she's like, of course you know who you are. You're Clarity Kim. I'm like, okay.
You know what, folks? You know how it is, right? So Kim and I, we actually live about 15 minutes apart, which is we're blessed because we've networked for years in the same circle, but never met. So about probably a couple years ago, we met and we went on tour here in Connecticut under the Momentum Tribe because we wanted to, inspire people to take to create momentum in their businesses and take action. So for some of you who probably have seen me around once or twice, I'm Zebs Zen with ZebsENCOM. I basically help you stop the chase of your ideal clients, helping you to use live video strategies, especially if you're an overwhelmed small business owner or expert or entrepreneur and you're like, oh my God, I have too many networking events to go to. I don't have the time, but you know what? I could probably use some sort of a live video strategy to be face-to-face with my clients. So what I do is I teach you how to use live video strategies to get your ideal clients to you. Boom, people, boom. And that's what the show is all about. You all know by me going at 200 miles per hour, we're going to do that today. So just showing you what LGBTQ Pride Month is. So I literally took this off so credit to Philip Bump, who is the writer for Washington Post. This came out like a few days ago. And it says there, which was yesterday, it says starting in 2009 and for the next 7 years, President Obama declared June as National LGBT Pride Month, recognizing gay people and calling to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists and to celebrate the great diversity of the American people. Boom, people. And that's why, as business owners, we will eventually get prospective or potential LGBTQ clients. I've always asked myself, because there is a huge LGBTQ chapter for Chamber of Commerce out of Hartford, which is about 45 minutes away from me. And, I would love to network with them, and I need to equip myself on how to do this. So today, our guest, time for our guest, people. She, in this episode, again, how not to communicate with prospective LGBT clients. And she is Jenn T. Grace. She used to be, she used to be. I had her on one of my Talk Tuesday shows, but I want her to come on the Momentum Tribe Mojo show because she's really creating momentum. So reading this a little bit, Jenn T. Grace is a nationally recognized business strategist, speaker and author specializing in the LGBTQ market. She's an Amazon best-selling author and has been featured in Forbes, the Huffington Post, the Hartford Courant, and on CNBC. Passionate about helping other people share their stories of adversity, Jenn is a founder of the Purpose Driven Authors Academy and Purpose Driven Publishing. Bottom line, folks, she's got credentials, yo. All right, let's bring her on. Yay! Welcome to the show.
Thank you both. Zeph, I love your energy. It's just so contagious.
Well, we got to, right? Because I'm all about the momentum, right? You don't stop doing what you love. You have to also know how to marry that with taking action steps to get results. Do you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree.
Jenn, anything you want to add a little bit to your introduction? Here's something that I didn't put on there that probably you think the audience should know.
No, maybe other than I've been doing this for over a decade. So it's certainly,
Congratulations.
yeah, it's been a long time.
So she knows her stuff, people. So let's get started, Jenn, because I think today is a great, important topic and, talking about how not to communicate with prospective LGBTQ clients. So let me start with this question. What are 3 key essentials of how not to communicate with prospective LGBTQ clients? I'm sure there are plenty, right? But if there are 3 things, 3 key essentials, what should we know?
Well, there are well more than 3. I wrote an entire book about them.
Yes.
And I didn't even include all of them in that book. But I would say the top 3 are don't assume, don't stereotype, and don't overshare. So that's like the down and dirty of the 3. So I'm sure, Zeph, you have some opinions or comments on the assumptions, stereotypes, and overshare.
Yes. I do have that question because, the don't assume part is so important because like for me, I have so many friends who are in the LGBTQ community, but it doesn't mean that I know necessarily how to communicate with them or engage with them in a business setting, right? Especially to get them interested in what I do. Is there a way for me to engage, or is there, some things that I shouldn't assume? Would you help elaborate a little bit more on the assumption part?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of assumptions, right? So we go into any setting and we're immediately kind of assessing our lay of the land. We're kind of looking around and we're immediately making assumptions, whether they're good, bad, it's not really relevant, but we're making assumptions based on who's around us, what they're doing, what their businesses are. When it comes to the LGBTQ community, for whatever reason, the layer of assumptions is just really, really deep. So we'll have a conversation and pretend it's the 3 of us in a networking environment and we don't know each other. And we all find out that perhaps we're all parents. We all have children.
Right.
And out of nowhere, I'm going to be the one that gets the question of, well, did you give birth, or did your wife give birth, or did you adopt? And there's all of these assumptions and you're getting peppered with questions, but that question would not necessarily be asked of either of you. So that's like one of those things that it's just kind of thinking about, would you want to be answering this question if somebody else asked you it? If the answer is no, chances are you probably shouldn't ask it of an LGBTQ person. A lot of times it's just kind of basic common sense, but in a lot of ways, for whatever reason, just that common wisdom goes out the window when we're talking about the LGBTQ community. It's a bit of the nature of the beast.
There you go, people. You heard it from her. What was number 2, Jenn? So I can put it right here in the comment too.
Yes. Stereotyping. So
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the biggest problem that happens, whether we're talking about big corporations or a solopreneur, is that when we're looking at the LGBTQ community, people are doing so through the lens of stereotypes. So they're going back to assumptions, they're assuming that everybody looks the same, acts the same, talks the same, goes to the same places, hangs out, does business, everything is the same. The reality is that could not be any further from the truth. because if we look at the LGBT community, it's more of a microcosm is usually what I call it. It's a microcosm of our larger community. So just because I'm LGBT and maybe a friend of mine who might be a man who is a gay man, that does not mean we have anything in common just because we're part of the LGBT community. So if we look at that from a business owner standpoint and a marketing standpoint, you have to be mindful of those things, because the strategy to me as a woman versus a counterpart of mine who's a man, that alone is a huge differentiating factor, let alone the application of the lens of the LGBTQ angle. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And I think for some of you who are watching out there, and I'm just going to quickly throw out, and I think Jen will address this a little bit. And I know Jenny Mustafa Julak, who's also a fellow live streamer, and she's also a business strategist in the LGBTQ community. And she has written a book about something else. It's just more about the mindset. But she is here with us today, and she says, why, oh, why is this even a topic? Jenny, I'll make sure this Jenn T.
That's an interesting thing, because I'm sitting here, and even when Zeph told me about the topic, and I'm just like, my mind went a million different directions. As a marketing person, brilliant.
Yes.
Niche. As an Armenian who's like, what's that, a food? To know to find other Armenians in the culture and feel like, oh, I don't have to explain what madzun is, or like, oh, why, like my grandmother sews in blue things into my underwear since I was 2. I get that. And as far as the prejudiceness, which I don't stand for, it's like, I don't know why we have a conversation about it. I will support the community because I don't believe anyone needs to be discriminated against. But yeah, I'm kind of like, so I'm just learning. I'm just kind of taking it all in, because it just blows my mind.
Jen, let's have you answer that question in a few minutes, but let's go to the third point so I can timestamp this in the questions. So what was the number 3 again?
Was not oversharing. So again, for whatever reason, when we're talking about LGBTQ people, there is really no good scenario in a business setting to be sharing your sexual experiences. It's not relevant. However, when we look at
to anybody at all. And to assume anybody, it just, anybody. Yeah.
But with LGBTQ, it's a different story. So immediately their mind goes to the bedroom. And that's not a relevant talking point in life in general, 99% of the time, but especially in a business setting. So if that's kind of the approach that I might receive, where I have somebody who's immediately saying, well, I don't care about what you're doing in the bedroom, that is not what we're talking about. That's completely irrelevant to the business at hand. So that immediately would turn me off as a potential person to partner with somebody, or whether it's a potential business transaction. And it's just this overshare, because then people start to like really share more details about their intimacy in the bedroom, which is equally not relevant. So it's just this very strange thing that suddenly when we're talking about LGBTQ people, all of these conventional wisdoms around networking just fly straight out the window. And it's not for everybody, of course.
Yes,
not everyone
Jen, so to recap, somehow the basic you're saying from your experience or from other people's experience in the community, that basic business acumen, boundaries, somehow get lost, or that people think doesn't apply to people in the community. I'm gonna say, and I would say your community. You're part of my community, but in the culture that you guys have created.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just common decency, common boundaries, things that you would never ask anyone else. I'm not going to ask you, either of you, in any setting, like, oh, did you ever sleep with a woman? Nor should you be asking me if I ever slept with a man in a business setting. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But yet, it just common conventional wisdom just flies out the window. And this is the case with marketing too. If we're talking about marketing campaigns and strategies, a lot of very basic marketing wisdom also flies out the window, not to the degree of what we're talking about here with oversharing and what have you, but the same kind of logic just kind of carries throughout, where it's like, oh, my product is aimed toward women. So maybe I can't even think of maybe I'm selling deodorant. I'm selling deodorant that's for women. When you're marketing to the LGBT community, you would not then sell that women's marketed deodorant to men. So you can't cast this broad net to the entire LGBT community. Like, you would still be only targeting the women of the LGBTQ community. Does that make sense? Because a lot of brands totally just go off the rails when it comes to this stuff.
You mean corporate brands?
Oh yeah, everybody. Like, just straight off the rails. Like they just, because they're thinking like, oh, LGBTQ, it's so big. There's so much opportunity. Like, I can't wait to hop in and tap into this market. And then the common principles of, well, what's your demographic? Who are you serving? Oh, you're serving women 35 to 45. Great. Like, that's a good thing to know. So you shouldn't be marketing 20-year-old gay men because that makes no sense. But yet somehow that hat, like that marketing strategic hat.
They think everyone is the same. So you're basically saying people, maybe even inside the community, but outside, because I've heard both sides of this, outside the community don't look at everyone as an individual identity group, or like, the women, men, this, that. They're not, they take this whole thing and they think it's one person.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And
like,
it's really
not saying LGBTQ is woman, not woman, whatever, right? Or men. That's, I think, what you're trying to say is not just one. It's a broad niche. And I think that's where, am I right in that perspective that you're talking about?
Yeah. And it's the one market that crosses all others. So if we're looking from a marketing standpoint, you can have an LGBTQ person who's a person of color, someone with a disability, someone who's a veteran, right, someone who's a woman, someone who's a man. So like or someone who's a parent. So there's all of these different layers. So the reality is, if you were marketing to me as an LGBT person may be a lot lower on the list than getting my attention first and foremost as a woman, secondly, as a mom, third, as, having a spouse. Like, those things might draw me to that brand first. But if you're drawing my attention to your brand as an LGBTQ person, you're waving the pride flag saying like, we want to do business with you. And then I get there and I have nothing to buy because I'm a woman and your product is for men. You missed the mark and you wasted a lot of money.
Got it.
Makes sense. Makes sense now. So I'm going to go to the next question, which was brought up through, from this conversation, is Jenny was asking earlier, Jenny Mustafa Julak, because I'm going to read her comment here too. And she says, I'm a coach. I happen to be gay, separate things. Please don't introduce me that way, which is really true.
Yeah.
And
unless you want to, unless that's your niche, unless there's a value to that.
Correct. Just like your branding, Jen, right? It's all about how you branded yourself. So the question is, why are we even talking about this?
Yeah.
I wish we weren't. I truly wish we weren't. And let me give you an example of the differences. So I have two companies. I have my LGBTQ consulting company that I have been working in this space for more than a decade. And I also have Purpose Driven Publishing, which is a publishing company. Mm-hmm. I have branded myself very specifically as the professional lesbian, which I did a little bit tongue in cheek. It works like a charm in terms of getting people to attend sessions and coming to see me speak. And that was really intentional because I had to do it in a way that made people feel less threatened by my topic. So I really went all in of saying, like, I'm the professional lesbian, like, join my tribe of other professional lesbians, like, to show that there's humor. Like, it doesn't have to be a serious conversation. So that's been in what I've been doing. And it's a way that I teach and train, is usually through humor. Now, on the purpose-driven publishing side of the business, my being LGBTQ is 100% irrelevant to the entire conversation. So I do not market myself as an LGBTQ publisher because that's not relevant. I am here to help people with purpose-driven stories and passions get their stories out into the world. So if we look at just my way of approaching this market, like she's saying, she's a coach, happens to be part of the community, but do not introduce me as such. Like, I would say I don't blame you 100. Like, I don't blame you at all, because I wouldn't want that to be the case with my publishing house, because it's not what I'm leading with. I'm leading with my intention of serving a community, regardless of whether, it's the LGBT community or not. It's more of, how am I going to help people get their stories out there? Jenn, so the fact of the matter is, why are we having this conversation, right? Because Zebs ENCOM, you draw in people who are like you, who happen to be inclusive, who happen to not discriminate. We are in Connecticut, at least the three of us, and it's a different landscape in Connecticut. Like, it's a very different feel for the LGBTQ community here versus Tennessee, for example. So we might think that this is a moot point or an irrelevant thing to be talking about. But the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of hate that is still being inflicted upon the LGBTQ community, in addition to other communities. I'm not exclusive to LGBT.
No, I get that. But I have a serious question, Jenn. And And first of all, I believe for me, it shouldn't be a conversation. No one asks me as a heterosexual woman or looks at me or asks me things about my life beyond what is appropriate and social, unless you were friends and we're having an intimate conversation. So from my very simplistic brain, I really don't understand why this is even a conversation in the world as a conversation. Because it's like, either I like you because I like you, or I don't like you because I don't like you because you did something to me. So to me, I'm very I'm really 5 years old that way. And no one should be discriminated for anything. You know, it shouldn't. We have to deal with it. We have to talk about it. But you said something interestingly over here, and I understand a niche and dealing with very difficult things with humor. So you and everyone has the right if they want to lead with their sexual orientation, or I have blonde hair and I used to have dark hair. I don't care. But why? It's almost like I've always asked this question. It's like, what is it? It's your rights are your rights. Is it a culture? It's almost like we're creating this, all of us, the hate people, the community thing. And it's like, why? So you're a person, you're in business. And like you were saying, if you didn't know I was this, you'd never ask me that. I get that. There's even diversity. Like, why would you ask somebody of color or somebody like Muslim, right? There are things that are my culture and Christian culture is totally inappropriate to say to somebody of a different religion order. Or like I have a friend in IBM, she goes to Tokyo. She's like, Kim, our culture is completely different. I have to forget that I'm American. I'm IBM and I have to be like their way. And it's completely different than our business culture here. Why do I, as anybody, other than being polite, professional, why do I have, and I'm speaking as the other side. I want everyone to get along. Why do I even have to care how to speak to somebody? Like, why does it have to be, I need to know how to speak to you differently versus I speak to that person, except that I'm stupid and I don't know that we're the same people. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So like and again, I grew up with bigotry and my husband's Puerto Rican and he was the first Puerto Rican family in a Jewish neighborhood. So I get it, the discrimination part. But what is the need to make it so this, like you're saying, even in the LGBT community, just because I'm a lesbian doesn't mean I'm this or I'm a guy. But why is the culture grouping it? If you don't want to be grouped together, why are we, not you? Why are we grouping things together? You're me, you're you, we're all together.
I appreciate your forward thinking. Like I genuinely do, because at the end of the day, the entirety of what I preach is that the LGBT community is no different than any other community, and we should not be treated differently. However, with that being said, there is a tremendous amount of baggage that we as the community carry because of the discrimination, because of the hate. In 29 states, or I think maybe it's 32. My facts are screwed up. So maybe Jenny, you said, maybe she'll correct me. You can be fired in more than half of this country for being LGBTQ with no other reason.
Well, that's
so
wrong.
What's that?
That's where we should all be standing up and saying, that's ridiculous.
There's data that shows that most Americans believe that this non-discrimination policy already exists. It doesn't. So more than 50% of LGBTQ people living in our country can be fired without cause because of who they are. So now we have that lens. So if I'm living in a state like Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, any one of those southern states, for example, I can just be fired because I got married over the weekend. So we have marriage equality, but that is not what we need. We need federal protections that protect us from being discriminated against. So you could, if we weren't in Connecticut, you could easily just tell me that I'm a dyke and that you don't stand for what I stand for, and because of that, you're fired. And that's why the LGBTQ community has this layer of baggage, because we have to be on guard. We have to be.
I agree with you there. So into your book, I totally stand with you on that.
Yeah.
Why is it important then, from your perspective, that we learn to speak to? I have a different take on this. To me, it's like I should treat you like a human being because you're a human being. And if there's things about your culture or things that I should learn to respect, just like if somebody came to me from Egypt I'm trying to build rapport. Yes, you've got to try to find the commonalities and understand we all don't think the same way. But then why is it so important, with that being said, why is it so important that people learn how to speak? It's almost like a catch-22. It shouldn't matter to me what you do or how your orientation is, but yet I have to learn how to speak to you a certain way to build rapport. That's where I personally get confused, because to me, you're Jenn.
Yeah.
And you know, as a coach, I wouldn't, maybe like Armenian, I would feel a layer, oh, like, you understand, I don't have to explain to you the genocide and how it affected my life. And so you get it because you know about the culture. It would make me feel more rapport with you. Or I'd rather talk to a woman than a guy, or I'd rather talk to a guy than a woman. I get that.
Yeah.
But if I'm hiring you as a coach, you better be a damn good coach who's solving the problem that I'm having.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm asking respectfully, not to be in any way. Why do we need to even learn what to ask or what not to ask outside of the scope of how we're doing business together?
You know, it's not that I am saying that we need to have a whole separate vocabulary around LGBTQ. Like, it's not that. It's more of the fundamental basics of what you're already saying as it relates to the community itself. So we're thinking of how do I be approached, and how do I approach you in just an average way? Like, we're not talking about rocket science here. Like, what are the things that are off the table? Like, you should just know that asking me about who I'm having sex with is not relevant. And you know that already. Most people already know that. But again, it does not translate when it comes to the LGBTQ community. So it's this strange balance. My entire book, which this latest one that just came out, the whole intention behind it is to help people understand that we are no different and that there doesn't need to be different language, but you have to be aware of those pitfalls. So like right now in our country, I think it's like every 3 days, a transgender person is murdered in our country. That is a very, very alarming statistic. So if you happen to be a trans person in business and you know that this is happening to people in your community and it's hitting you personally, that's going to be something that's kind of top of mind for you. And it's going to have that, like, your spidey sense up of assessing, like, okay.
Absolutely. No, it's the same thing with any ethnic group. And this is where I think I get stuck.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Muslims are being discriminated horribly. Armenian, my culture, my family, my personal family was killed, genocided just because of their ethnicity.
Yeah.
You know, we've got people of color who are, and I get from the discrimination, I would stand up, and I think everyone should be standing up at the rooftops about discrimination. And that it almost sounds like what you're doing is sensitivity training. It's not even diversity training. It's think, you know what I mean? Just think. Yeah. Just because the culture or their ideas are different than you, don't lose your marbles and think that basic, I'll just keep it, business acumen or just that it should trade. That you're basically saying there's a hole in our fabric of our society, that you're not given the same basic courtesies when they find out, whether they figure it out or you tell them. All of a sudden, those basic acumen go out the window in business, and that's basically what your book is about.
Yeah, that's really it. And I had a handful of people who wrote testimonials in advance. They got advanced copies of the book. Okay. And I sent it to specifically people of diverse backgrounds. So whether we're talking about diversity within the LGBTQ community itself, whether we're talking about racial diversity, and I sent it to Hispanic women who are chief diversity officers at major corporations, wrote back the most sincere and heartfelt messages in response to the book, because they said what you're talking about you can swap out LGBTQ and you can put Hispanic in place of LGBTQ, and everything that you talk about applies to that community as well. Okay. So it really isn't about the diversity piece and about the different ways in which we have to tweak our language. It's more about the inclusion piece and just me recognizing you as an Armenian woman, not that would come up either, but just saying like, why would that come up? Right. Or why would me being Irish come up? It's not relevant.
Right. That's what All right, so I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. So yeah, so
yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Steffi, I think we got our personally, I think we got our questions wrong. So,
yes.
You know, because I'm thinking.
Let me share this real quickly, folks. All right. So I'm going to read some of the comments on Facebook, as you can see. So I'm going to read out the comments. Feel free to actually just comment on that. All right. So I'm going to scroll up so you ladies can see what it is. So Lottie says, start, rethink, respond, avoid action or reaction jerking. And then Karen has been saying quite a few things here. She says, I'm glad she got it. I'm still not getting it. Karen. And again, what does this have to do with the marketing? And please do not get me started on racial genocide. Please do not get me started. Just because Karen has been around in live streaming also, and she's saying, Lottie says we should speak to humans as human beings, polite, kind, caring, and sharing no matter what. Or no matter where, what lifestyle, what age. When we meet those we don't get along with, we can choose to walk away or adapt or educate. Depends on walls we choose to bang heads again. I agree there. And Karen had mentioned something here earlier. She says, I'm much more supportive of sensitivity versus let me have a special way of speaking.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of going to. I think, yeah, go ahead.
And Jenny, who is actually, like I said earlier, she's also a business coach who's in the LGBTQ community. She says, by the idea that the LGBTQ community needs special handling at all is completely condescending and insensitive. So is this how not to repel LGBTQ community? Now, I'm going to go back to Jen here. Which would you like to address, or generally?
Yeah, I think so. The bones of what we're talking about sensitivity, we're talking about communications. When we're talking about big business and big brands, I can tell you for a fact that over the years, I have certainly pissed off my fair share of people within the community itself. Like, that is a given. So the fact that there's, you know, a little bit of misunderstanding of the place in which I come from, not a surprise. My clientele tends to be Fortune companies, and they are Fortune companies that might say, and this might really kind of bring all of this back together for everyone. So if we have a Fortune company who is notoriously known for not being inclusive of the LGBTQ community, there's a lot of them out there of the Fortune 1000 that have bad policies, they have bad practices, they don't support same-sex benefits, or previously when like same-sex marriage. You know, there's been people who've been supportive of domestic partner benefits well before we had marriage equality. There are companies out there that don't support their transgender employees. They don't provide medical benefits. So there's certain types of medical benefits for these employees. So you have a company that's just very kind of disconnected on the inside. You have internal strife because there's that middle manager. It's often referred to as the frozen middle. You have executive level support that says, hey, the LGBTQ community is important to us. You have people on the ground within the company who are part of an employee resource group. And then you have the middle managers who are like, yeah, I don't care. You're still a dyke to me. And there's a disconnect between the people, the LGBTQ people, and the executives who are saying this is important to us. So there's this big disconnect. So that's happening over here in this silo. In the other silo, you have a marketing department who's saying, like, let's go market to the LGBTQ community. This is a great market. It's a $917 billion market. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And yet you have employees who are fearful of being fired from their job because who they are. And yet on the other side, you have this company saying, come do business with us. We're so great. Like, come work with us, come work for us.
Jenny, you're almost, the way I picture you, you're almost like a consultant. You're, to me, you're an advocate or a consultant about having companies clean up it's discrimination. It's discrimination. So this is where I get confused. And I have family members that I love, and my cousin-in-laws, and I don't get, like, you're the best thing that ever happened to my cousin, and I don't care. It's not, to me, it's not even a conversation.
Yeah.
So my question is, how much there's discrimination, and we all need to be, and anything we can do, and anything, if you can put a business and make a living around, getting like minds to stand up for this and for equality. And I think that's great. But here's where I get confused. And I remember, I don't want to date myself, but when it wasn't safe, okay, to talk about your sexual orientation. You know, we think we have problems now. The 80s were horrific. Okay. You could not even discuss it. And if anyone found out, your life was over.
Yeah.
So that was before we had an LGBT community. And I think we should have supportive places, but it's like, it's for me, and I'm saying this in the spirit of discussion, you don't want anyone, because if people know you're going to get discriminated, but that it's the thing that some people choose to lead with. It's like, first of all, you're a person. I want to, you know, whatever. It's like with me, I'm not an Armenian American. I'm a woman who happens to be Armenian. And, you know, anybody who knows Armenian knows that, oh my God, what did I just say? But we'll get over it. So, and like even the LGBTQ, people are marketing to it because I don't know if it was given to you, the community, or the community self-identified that way, but it's just, and I think it's a conversation, and it's a conversation of individual responsibility, social responsibility. And my thing is, I would be the first one to start a whole movement about discrimination is discrimination. And if we're giving it, if it's a women equality, all women get it. If it's a men equality, all men get it. And honestly, even at the woman-man level, we're still fighting over discrimination. So
of course we are. Yeah.
So the question is, what's the value? And I can say this to any advocate community. If we're all talking, we're not talking about inclusivity, because every group, I can even go Christian, Muslim, we're not inclusive. It's like you're us or them. Everyone's us versus them. So it's not about inclusivity. It's about fighting discrimination. So if you have a company that like saying, oh, we want to market and have this whatever community buy our products, and then on the inside, anybody who has that affinity, let's just say affinity or labeling, we're doing things negative or harmful to them. Yeah, that's yes. To me as a businesswoman, that's an incongruency with your brand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a brand. But then as far as a human being, that's to me just isn't right. What level are you positioning your company to address? Is it the brand incongruency? Is it the insensitivity chip that we're all living in, that we think it's okay because we don't agree with someone's choice? Where does your business, in your coaching business, because I let you, since you've put a niche on yourself, that, you know, what is the message to that community that's incongruent with their intentions? What's the mission in that situation that they're buying into with you? They're saying, oh, great, come be with us, educate us.
Yeah, so I am not a coach. I will just throw that out there, that I don't do coaching. I previously was a business coach. So this consulting business has taken many forms and fashions over the last decade. So it was internally working, then it was working with the Chamber of Commerce, then it was working with small business owners in a very specific business coaching capacity, and then it's transitioned into corporate specifically. So 500 employees and up, a lot of times Fortune companies. And to me, it's so easy for any brand on the surface, any company that has, you know, it doesn't even matter how many employees, but any company that says, I want to market to the LGBTQ community because they have a lot of money to spend, is typically the statement I hear. Right. Or like gays have a lot of money. I hear it all the time. And there is data that supports that claim. However, that is not what I focus on. I will happily, and I have developed big marketing strategies around the LGBTQ community for companies before. I have shifted away from that because 9 out of 10 times I'll have a company come to me and they say, can you help us with a marketing strategy to reach your people? And I can immediately be like, no, based on how you're approaching this. However, let's talk about the inside. Let's talk about your policies. Let's talk about your practices. Let's talk about the internal communications, the satisfaction of your LGBTQ employees, the retention, recruitment, all of that. 9 out of 10 times it's a mess and they don't have any of that in place. So I start way back and say, all right, I'm not helping you until you're willing to put in the time and the effort to ensure that the people who work for you are properly protected. The people who you are serving are properly protected. Once we have that figured out, then I will connect you with a resource that can help you externally market your message.
Is that message being embraced? Are they saying, yes, come on and help us? Awesome.
Yes. And a lot of times they just don't know. In a lot of companies that I work with, there's a thing called the Corporate Equality Index, which is put out by the Human Rights Campaign. And it ranks companies on a scale of 0 to 100 of how they're doing in terms of LGBTQ practices within their organization. And a lot of times companies will have like a 10, which is signaling like red flag, like something's wrong here. But oftentimes these companies, no one ever actually got the survey to fill out. So I work with a lot of companies where they might have a 10 because no one filled out the survey or didn't even know it existed. So I come in, educate them of like, here's why this is important. Here's why if you want to start marketing externally, we need to pay attention to what you're doing internally, because like you use the exact word of incongruency. That comes up so obviously.
That's great. That if you're coming from a marketing perspective, which is many different ways to have this conversation, brand is about consistency and congruency.
Correct.
Okay. And the inside needs to match the outside, and outside needs to match the inside. And then because we live in a political world, we live in a religious world, and if those things don't match, it all gets screwed up. So, all right. So I think this the thing, what I'm really excited hearing is that you've taken this message to corporate America and you're being heard.
Yes.
And you're being invited in to debunk the myths, tackle the diversity issues, the bigotry issues, the confusion issues, the idiot issues, you lost your freaking marbles. Let's put them back in your head.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So that's really my primary focus. And then I do come in and do speaking and occasionally trainings for LGBTQ individuals who work for the corporation, who are part of an employee resource group. And often they're called affinity groups, where it is the LGBTQ individuals of that organization have come together because they want to help influence, whether it's the internal policies, they want just a way to network. Like it's just a matter of providing them like a safe space to have conversations and dialogue and all that. So to me, being an LGBTQ person is actually a benefit. Like I fully believe that that can be a benefit for an individual within a corporate environment. And if they just need to make sure that they're thinking about themselves as personal brands, even if they're employees. So I do a lot of training around that too, where I go in and I'm explaining to them how they can leverage themselves as a whole person, as a personal brand within their organization. So that way they can have more opportunities to be promoted or get the different lateral job that they might be looking for. So there's two distinctive ways in which I work within the community now. And those are basically how they stand. Previously, it was coaching individuals, coaching businesses, and that is, there's other people out there that can do that now that I don't need to be involved in that.
This is a great conversation, as you can tell, right? So I think as it is, there's a lot of questions around this topic. So I'm glad, Jenn got both sides of this conversation today. And I think, Kim, you brought really great questions to give. That's why I call her Clarity Kim. She helps us to get that clarity, folks, people. Yeah. So I just want to also say, just read this before we go, because we are actually beyond our time a little bit. Over, I am just going to say this. One of the comments, Stacy Spensley in Facebook said, it seems predatory to focus on LGBTQ people since the community is not a monolith. Speak to your people, use inclusive language because it's the decent thing to do and you'll attract the right customers. Boom for you, Stacy. Absolutely. Folks, totally there's a lot of conversation going on right here. And you know what? If you come back and just like Karen said, I don't get it. I still don't get it. Come back, put your questions in there. Make sure you tag Jenn T. Grace, or you can also communicate with her.
Continue this conversation
Correct.
Offline. And I thought,
this is a great conversation because, I thought this would be a great conversation, especially for this month, right? Because it goes hand in hand. So, folks, I'm putting up Jenn's information here. Jenn, correct me if there's anything wrong on the screen. So tell us, as I put this on screen, how would you like people to best connect with you? Your number one contact spot.
I would say go to my website because I have hundreds, it's like 468 blog posts and podcasts about this topic, and it's all free information. So there's a lot more that you can learn based on what we kind of started to get to today.
So it's jenntgrace.com, people. Be sure to read more information. Yeah.
And Jenn, what's your book? Let's plug your book.
Yeah, let's plug your book.
And tell everyone a little bit, a soundbite about it.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's Beyond the Rainbow, personal stories and practical strategies for helping your business and workplace connect with the LGBTQ market. And like I was saying before, it's all about a message of inclusion and that LGBTQ people are not different than you. We need to just be treated the same. That's really kind of the crux of the message. And it's very workplace and marketplace focused.
Boom. Jenn, I just want to say thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. And folks, for all of you who tune in today, I'm having goosebumps just talking about the conversation. For all of you who made really great comments, Jenn and also Kim, I suggest you go back to the Entrepreneurs at Work page and look at the comments. Feel free to reply to those comments, because I think the conversation should continue. And that's where you can do it, folks. Post the show, or you can come back here on Crowdcast and ask your question, because you will actually receive an email if we answer it. Boom. That being said, Jenn, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenn, for being here.
You're welcome.
Would you just drop in your link to your book where they can get it in the chat right to the right bar on the right side, and then go back to facebook.com/zebsencom to actually put it in the Facebook comment, or I can just put it there.
There you go.
All right, Jenn, thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Again, I'm putting up Jenn's information right here. She says, go to jenntgrace.com to connect with Jenn. And thank you so much. Last words, Jenn, before you go.
I just hope people take this opportunity to carry this conversation over into other aspects of their business lives. So use this as a conversation starter.
Can you imagine? We're beyond time, because there is a need to have this conversation.
It's a big conversation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So thank you so much.
You did a great job, Jenn. Sorry our questions would have been more. You made, just so from me, you made when we got into over the questions and we just started asking you questions, your message came out loud and clear.
Okay, good.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Good. I appreciate your questions, and I appreciate your inclusivity.
Yay! Thank you, Jenn. We'll see you on the next episode, maybe, or we'll see her around. Be sure, Jenn, you have a podcast, right?
Yes, there's 130 episodes. It's called the Personal Branding for the LGBTQ Professional Podcast.
Is it on your website?
It is, and it's on iTunes.
Yeah, also on iTunes, people. There you go. All right, Jenn, thank you so much. We'll see you then. Thank you for coming on. Bye, Jenn. All right, everybody. I just wanted to say, thank you so much. This has been a great episode. So I'm just going to breeze this through. Just for some of you who don't know where to find us, you can find us Wednesdays at momentumtribe.live, 11:30 a.m. New York, 8:30 a.m. LA, and 4:30 p.m. UK. And right now, if you've seen our past episodes, we're offering free premium membership, limited time only. You only have a few days to come on board, July 1st. The link is bit.ly/mt-premium. What is it, Zaf? What is this membership all about? So here's what I'm going to put up right here, folks. How would you benefit from joining the tribe? We're all about helping you create momentum, take action, and get results. Our motto is helping overwhelmed small business owners and expert entrepreneurs to, one, create constant momentum that helps you get from where you are to where you want to be. Most important thing. And number, you can read that through. And the last one, build your own dream team that helps you achieve your dreams. Kim and I talk about this a lot, because we're not an island, people. I need her. She needs me. Sometimes we forget what it is. We remind ourselves. I'm sure you need that too. The show was really designed to help you, build your momentum even in the most trying times.
And talk about your issues. Talk about what's holding you back.
What was the line, Kim, that you always have more tissues than what?
I have more issues than tissues, more drama than a soap opera, but I make my quirks work. It helps enough.
Boom. There you go, people. All right. This is the information again. Be sure to go to that link, bit.ly/mt-premium, to get that information. And you know what, folks? Thank you so much for coming back here to join us every week on the show. Any interesting thing? So I want to plug this in because she did this. I want to commend her for doing this. Kim did her first masterclass last week on Facebook Live. You don't know how happy she.
You have no idea.
I was like, she's on Facebook Live. She's doing masterclass. This is the kind of example that we're talking about: building momentum and creating, actions.
And doing things out of your comfort zone that would normally send you to bed or to the vodka bar.
This woman, she's done it. Last week, be sure I'm going to have her drop her link to her masterclass so you can watch the replay. She's going to put it on Facebook in the comments, and she's going to also drop it in the
just because I don't know how to do it, Zeph just said, I'll give you my
send the link. I'll put it into the comments.
Yeah.
Well, everybody.
Zeph will tell me to find out how to find the link to the actual post. But for right now, you can just go to my Facebook page.
Success Genie. All right. That's a Facebook page. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again for being here. I hope to see you in the next episode.
Thank you for being part of the conversation, guys.
Great conversation today. Share this out because you too may know somebody in the LGBTQ community and you want to work with them. This was a great episode to do that. Thank you, everybody. See you next week, 11:30 a.m. New York time. Bye.